This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 455 of Horse Tip Daily, a different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products. Visit them at kppusa.com. Howdy, everybody. Glenn the Geek back with you from Lexington, Kentucky, and you're listening to Horse Tip Daily. Well, today we have back with us Betsy Cohen. She was on with us many times before. She's sort of our leather care and horse care expert, and she works with Bickmore, which is one of the leading companies in the leather care business. She's been working with them for a very long time. So we're going to get her on for another one of her fantastic tips, and she has done several in the past. You can find them at horsetipdaily.com and listen to them all at once if you want to. But first, let's chat a little bit about Kentucky Performance Products and what they can do for your horses, and then let's get to Betsy. Well, it's a hot one out there, and the heat wave has hit much of the United States and the rest of the world. Well, don't let dehydration and electrolyte imbalance sideline your horse. Summer Games electrolytes are formulated to replace both the electrolytes and the trace minerals that are lost when your horse sweats. Its concentrated formula allows you to easily feed the correct amount to meet your horse's changing needs. This electrolyte was developed for the equine athletes at the 1996 Olympic Games in Atlanta. We all know that it can get hot in Atlanta. For horses on the go, use Summer Games Electrolyte Plus Paste. Each dose contains a serving of Nalox equine antacid for double the protection against stress. And of course, you can find all of that at Kentucky Performance Products. They take out the confusion of choosing the right supplement. And you can find them at kppusa.com. That's kppusa.com. Well, hi, Betsy, and welcome back to Horse Tip Daily.
Hey, how you doing, Glenn?
I'm doing good. It's always fun to have you on, and I know people have been enjoying your tips, and I wanted to remind everybody, if you haven't heard Betsy's tips in the past about leather care or hoof care or all the other care we've talked about, you can go to Horse Tip Daily. Just search for her on the left side there underneath the list of all the experts. It's Betsy Cohen. And Betsy, you can go listen to all of Betsy's tips at once. That's a good way to do it. If you find an expert that you really like, you can just go listen to all their tips at one time. Take you, only a few minutes each. All right, so what are we talking about today?
We are talking about some products that you should have in your tack box at all times.
Beer.
And this kind of...
The beer's not one of them?
No, well, yeah, that's for after riding, but no drinking and riding.
See, but that's the horse husband. That's for the horse husband. See, we're going back to that again.
That's right.
I just read a great article by, actually it was on, I'm trying to remember whose blog it was on. Oh, it was on 3 Days, 3 Ways. I'm going to look it up right now. This was a while back. My friend Courtney Young writes a terrific blog called 3 Days, 3 Ways. Sorry about this. But it's relevant here. And I should do tips on being a horse husband. So there you go. And it was written by a gentleman by the name of a blog entry, really good one, by the name of, I'm looking for it here. Give me a second. It was a ways back, but I want to get it right because I thought it was excellent. I'm looking. Horse Husband, huh? Okay, and his name is his name is Tom Rushton, and he calls himself a spousal stable associate. I thought it was a clever name, and actually he wrote an article for her on 3 Days, 3 Ways about being a horse husband and how he doesn't like the term horse husband. And he wanted to come up with some more clever names for horse husband and not necessarily horse husband. So that was on. And he says there are 3 things that horse husbands must remember when going to the show. And he calls it the 3 Bs. And you never forget the 3 Bs. One is your BlackBerry, so that you can feel like you're at least connected to the outside world and there's a life outside of horsewomen. The second is your bike, because it gives you something to do, and I always brought my bike, so I can relate to this. It gives you something to do when you get truly bored at the show. And then the third thing is beer. So the 3 Bs that horse husbands must take to shows. I should have made that a tip.
Yeah, you should have.
I should have. See, I blew it. All right. Well, sorry, I took up half your time with the 3Bs.
Hey, that's okay. That was good, and those are all tips that I should tell my husband because we haven't done a lot of showing down here, so he hasn't figured that stuff out yet.
Yeah, the 3Bs. BlackBerry, iPhone would work too, I guess. And then beer being the most important one, of course.
Absolutely.
Okay, so so beside the 6-pack in the Tack trunk, we also should have...
You should have some sort of healing salve. So we would recommend gall salve specifically, and some sort of blood stop or antiseptic powder of sorts. And we would, again, recommend the Super H antiseptic powder. So when I'm looking at a wound, and, it can be anything from a bug bite, a scratch, a cut. Horses just acquire these things, and we're like, okay, we've patted them from nose to tail, and they still come in with one little scratch here, a ding, a scratch, a dent. And we're like, how could they have possibly gotten this? I'm going to look at that wound and say, okay, I'm a city girl at heart. Would the city girl in me put my finger on that? If the answer is yes, then I will pick out the gall salve. The gall salve is an alum-based product. It does not rub off. It does not sweat off, which those are pretty important things. So a lot of us have put salves and creams on our horses, and then we let them out or we put them in their stall, and then they roll, and it's dripping down their face. It's, got dirt stuck in there. The flies are getting into it. Gall salve will not do that. When you rub it in, it goes on dry. Don't eat French fries after you're done putting it on with your fingers because the alum will make your tongue suck in. But basically,
you'll be
once you put it on
for
there,
a while.
it is. It's like really cheap red wine. It makes your tongue suck in. I guess they call that tannins. But yeah. Ugh. Anyway, so basically, you put this on, and what's really cool about it is it was even made. If you have a girth sore, you can put this on that girth sore and continue to girth up that horse and continue to work it and ride it while it's healing. It reduces some swelling, does some pain management, gets the hair to grow back, and basically it's promoting healing. So William Fox Pitt at the Olympics was talking about how he couldn't school his horse very well in dressage because he had girth sores. If I could have rung him up and said, hey, buddy, you need some gall salve. That's the stuff you need. You'll be good to go. He would have been golden. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that. And, now he's
Well,
good.
we have his phone number the next time you need to do that.
I will definitely do that. And I was like, oh, man. But gall salve is, again, for anything that you don't mind sticking your finger on. And anything, scratches, bug bites, fungus. It's really interesting because it is antiseptic. So on some cases of dew poisoning or greasy heel or scratches or whatever you call that, where in your general local area, it will either work or it won't. It depends on the strain. So we've had horses out the barn that it works and clears it up in a couple, 3 days, and it's good to go. And then we've had other horses it won't touch. Again, it just depends on the strain. But I use it on anything on their skin that I don't mind touching.
I've heard people using it too on, and I don't know if you've heard of this, on, I don't know, like warts or growths like that.
It's really funny because one of our company heads had a horse, Scooter, that had a wart on his nose. And he just started putting it on there as a joke. And I said, oh, did you take a picture? He's like, no. He's like, but the wart is gone. So now I'd love,
that's what I've heard,
any company out there would love, if you have before and after or before, during, and after pictures for things like this. We are always looking for things like that. And we always love to hear the story after, oh, yeah, my horse, was cut open and all this other stuff. And we used your product and it's magically gone.
And nobody thinks to do that before.
No. With everyone having their cell phones on them with pictures.
Now, this is for minor wounds, sores, and scratches and stuff. This isn't for an open, gaping wound. This is not going to solve a stitchable wound here. Yeah.
I had a woman in Ohio call me that her horse got shot in the leg, and would actually the next powder that we're going to talk about in a minute, would that help? And I was like, no, call the vet.
Yes, exactly.
Please. Call the vet.
All right, so that's gall. That's spelled
topical stuff.
Gall salve.
Yep, gall salve. And basically a gall salve was from way back in the 1800s where they had horses with harness. And that harness, when the luggers were pulling out the big logs out of Old Town, Maine, those horses would get sored up. And basically Doc Bickmore was going, and he went to one of these farms, the loggers, and said, hey, you need to stop using this horse. He needs to heal. And And the logger's like, are you going to feed my family? This is the only horse I have. He needs to work. So Doc Bickmore went back to his kitchen, actually, and whipped up gall salve. And the whole point of gall salve is to promote healing and get that horse usable while it's still healing.
Okay.
And, you know, work it. That's the whole, if you look at the gall salve tin, it says be sure and work the horse.
Right.
And the picture of the horse on the tin is actually Doc, the horse that Doc Bickmore was treating.
Huh.
So that's pretty interesting. That's the history of gall salve. Again, anything a city girl wouldn't mind sticking her finger on. Now, for anything I won't stick my finger in.
Okay.
So bloody, pussy, oozy, gooey, yucky. That is when I'm going to use the Super H antiseptic powder.
If you're eating lunch right now, we ask your forgiveness.
I'm going to wash out that wound really, really well with just straight old water, and then I'm going to let it dry if I can, and then I'm going to puff on the Super H antiseptic powder. It's going to stop the bleeding. It's going to pull the infection and start getting the healing process going. Once it is scabbed over, I'll ask myself again, is that something I'll touch? A scab I will touch, being a city girl, and I'll go to the gall salve and continue on. But again, that Super H powder, you might need to use it for 3, 4, 5 days, depending on the wound and what you're treating. If you mix it with water, it will form a medicated poultice.
Oh, okay.
So we have it in the 4-ounce bucket or 4-ounce puffer bottle. We also have it in a 3.5-pound bucket. So for those people who want to mix up quite a bit of it, they can do that as well.
All right. So it stops bleeding.
Works really well.
I was going to say
bleeding.
It treats proud flesh
healing.
too, right?
Yep, and that was the next thing I was going to talk about. There are a lot of times when a horse will get just a little owie on its leg, and next thing you know, you got some development of proud flesh. The Super H antiseptic powder will treat that and actually get that proud flesh growth, that granulation tissue gone, so the skin can heal over it and you can continue about your business.
Okay, cool.
It's a pretty diverse product. We have some of the farmers who are castrating whatever they're castrating, sheep, goats, whatever. They'll use it when they're dehorning cattle. They'll use this to stop the bleeding. It does nothing to keep the flies away. The flies don't like the smell, so it does discourage them, but it is not a fly repellent type thing. But it is a great product. Those two things should be in everyone's saddlebags, everyone's tack trunks. They should be around at all times. If you cut your dog's toenail a little too close and he's bleeding all over your floor, the Super H antiseptic powder is a great product for that.
All right. So we've got gall salve, the Super H antiseptic powder, and the 6-pack of beer. All in your tack trunk, and you've covered the horse husband, the horse, and the wife, and everybody's happy.
That's exactly right. And I'll have you know, it's a little bit cheaper. The 6-pack, they're 6, and they're gone by the end of the afternoon, or a couple hours later. The gall salve and the Super H will last significantly longer.
Yeah, but they won't make you feel as happy about being at the horse show.
No. No. They won't.
And that's at Bickmore.com, Bickmore, Bickmore.com. Thank you very much for joining us again. Well, thanks again to Betsy for joining us. We really appreciate that. And don't forget, you can see or hear all of the rest of the shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com. And if you're a fan of a lot of the shows, instead of subscribing separately through iTunes to each show, you can go to horseradionetwork.com, and on the left-hand side of the page is an iTunes button, and that is a master iTunes button that when you subscribe through that to iTunes, you get all the shows. Any show we put out through the Horse Radio Network comes through that feed. So if you listen to a lot of the shows, it might be easier just to have them all downloaded under one feed. I know a lot of people do that. So that's there as well. Well, we'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, stay safe, everyone.
The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.